Many coders and billers struggle with a billing of interactive complexity. That's CPT code 90785. If you struggle with that, I'm going to attempt to explain and make it a little bit easier for you to understand when it's most appropriate to bill for interactive complexity. Hi guys, my name is Kat and the credentials I hold is CPCA and CRC. And like I said, in today's video, we're going to discuss interactive complexity, which is an add-on code for psychotherapy, psychotherapy sessions. Now, interactive complexity, the code description says it is a code that is reported in addition to the primary psychiatric service. So that's your 90791s, your 90792s, for example, your 90832s through 37s, excluding the E&Ms of those psychotherapy codes. So they are to 90785 is to be reported when the patient is being treated for certain factors that increases the complexity of the treatment for that day's service. And the factors that they will consider payment for, or payers will consider payment for, is disruptive communication that complicates your care, any kind of emotional or behavior interference that is, given by, or that is being reflected from the caregiver or the guardian of like a minor or a spouse, if it's like family therapy. Some kind of evidence that the therapists have to report to a third party, like they're mandated to report it to a third party, such as like abuse, any kind of physical, sexual, or emotional abuse. If they have to use play equipment or have a translator present to help with the communication between the therapist and the patient, or any of the parties that's involved, because there's some kind of barrier that exists. Now, I'm reading this out of my Optum Specialty Behavioral Health book, and here's the book. And this helps to give you a little bit more insight on when it's appropriate to bill this. I'm also looking at my computer. I am looking at a download from the cms.gov, and I'll put the link in the description below so that you can refer to it if you need it for your reference as you're coding or billing, or if you want to educate your provider because they are billing this. Now, I know that sometimes I see providers try to bill this when they are needing like an interpreter, and while it says here in the description that interpreters are used, you could bill this for an interpreter. It doesn't necessarily mean just an interpreter. You have to remember that it has to be when a communication barrier exists, and that's the gray area. The communication barrier exists. So it has to be something that's above and beyond the circumstances of just a translator being needed for that visit. Because if you think about it, in every visit, whether it's a E&M visit or, a problem-focused visit, if there's a need for a translator, every patient is entitled to that. This is different, whereas there's a barrier for communication, so you have to get someone else involved because there is a specific barrier that exists. And so according to CMS, there are four reasons why you should be able to build this code, the 90785. It's because there's high anxiety, high reactivity that's involved in the communications of the therapy. You have to constantly repeat questions, or there's a disagreement that just can't be resolved among the participants, and it complicates the delivery care. So that's one reason. If the caregiver's emotions or behaviors interfere with the treatment plan of the patient, that's another reason. If there's something that has to be reported to a third party, like some kind of like abuse or something that needs to be, that was reported to the therapist, they're mandated by law to report that to a third party. So that's, you know, interactive complexity. Or if there's have to be an use of play equipment, some kind of physical devices, some kind of interpreter or translator that needs to overcome a significant language barrier. So again, that's the key right there that you need to look for when you try to build this out for interpretation services. So again, these codes can be built with any of the psychiatric diagnostic interview codes. It can also be built with any of the psychotherapy codes. You can build this with any of the family therapy codes. You can build this with group therapy codes. And you cannot build this code for the psychotherapy codes. You cannot build this for the E&M psychotherapy codes either. I mean, the crisis psychotherapy codes or the E&M psychotherapy codes. So what I would suggest is that you have your provider clearly document the interactive complexity involvement of that visit, and you can refer them to the PDF that's given by CMS, and they can list that directly into their note. And also, if they feel like they know that the situation will have to involve, you know, like extra care, it also would be helpful if you can contact the payer to see if this is something that's covered, and if it's something that they will that they automatically deny and you want to be prepared for. But that's just going above and beyond. But in the beginning, you can just go ahead and, you know, make sure that the note is clearly documented with one of the following reasons that's given by the CMS guidelines, and you can bill it for that. So yeah, so that's with that code. Now, like I said, some confusion comes in, not so much with the mandate of, like, you know, reporting it to a third party, not so much with the high complexity of the emotions, but it's mostly with the interpretation services. And if you have questions about, can I bill the interactive complexity with this visit because we did have an interpreter, read the note clearly to see if there was some kind of significant barrier that caused the interpreter to come in. Not just that the patient needed an interpreter, the fact that there was something that was just above and beyond normal that would mandate or that would be considered or can be looked at as like a significant involvement for this interpreter. So I hope this explanation about the interactive complexity helps. If you have any questions, leave them below. I will also leave links to the references that I use down below so that you can, you know, use them at your disposal. And I hope that you guys found this video helpful. If so, go ahead and give the video a like, and go ahead and, you know, let me know that I'm doing a good job by subscribing to the channel. And go ahead and share this video with, you know, your fellow behavioral health coder if they need this, if you think it'll be helpful. So until the next video, you guys, I hope you guys are well, and I will see you real soon. Always be learning and keep on keeping on, because we got this, coders.